What is up? What is up? Hibbity hop hop. Right, there was something on my forehead. Yeah, so I'm just gonna double check to see and make sure we're good. In terms of volley, we're live, I know that for sure. What is up? What is up? It's interesting how I got the notification for myself going live. Normally that doesn't always happen. Sometimes it might happen the next day or whatever the heck. But anyways, welcome back, guys. Another YouTube video by moi. Mwahaha. Not the villain type of mwahaha, the mwahaha that we love. Alright? So when we're talking today about my title that I did, normalization has become widespread. Okay, so a lot of people might get misled by this and might think that we're normalizing certain things, like certain obvious cliche type things. I should have put that in the title really, but it's all right. A lot of people might go to straight to the mentality of like obvious cliche things that we normalize, like, I don't know, like substance abuse, alcohol abuse, whatever the heck, like, along the lines of that, like other crimes that I care not to mention in this video at this point in time, but you can use your imagination. What's it called? When it comes to normalizing those things, those are kind of like a bit obvious, like a lot of people know that those kind of stuff is normalized in our society. So I don't really feel the need to bring up those in this topic of this specific video. I'm more thinking of this. When we're talking about normalizing certain chat rate. Oh, bitch got a chat. Why are my comments not coming up? But yeah, when we're talking about normalizing certain aspects of stuff that like every single day we already consider normal, right? So it's not necessarily like something that's being normalized that I'm going to talk about in this video, is more so something that is normal now already at this current point in time, and everybody is kind of used to it being normalized, right? Apparently I've got no comment, even though this thing's telling me that I've got a comment. Anyways, let's not get lost into those distractions. So yeah, it's something that has been normalized is what I'm about to get into in this video, because I've been noticing this a lot recently with every single kind of little thing that a lot of people may think is like normal per se, but are actually products of, like, first of all, colonization. That's like one of the main examples that I can first think of coming right off the top of my head. Because nowadays we live in a society where we consider things to be after the fact, right? We consider that colonization happened and now we're part of a product of a society that is like come out of that, rather than looking at it as an aspect of, as a society we are actually still within that as a collective society. And a lot of people might not realize this, but like we live in colonies. So like any street that you can go on, any city that you can go to, we all know that these are products of the British monarchy. Even if you're part of a country that is not part of the British monarchy, you still were part of the British monarchy originally, and whatever system they've updated to now, whether they're separate from the British monarchy or not, is still a product of the British monarchy. It's like a carry-on system. So just because the system has been updated and adjusted to be more fitting for the people and the population of the landmass that you're on, does not mean that it is not a part of the British monarchy originally, because it's like a child of the British monarchy. Same way in Europe, you have many different monarchies in Europe. You've got like the pretty much, I think, a monarchy for every single country probably in Europe. So they're different monarchies, but the practice that they're doing is the same thing. They all originate from the same concept of monarchy. Same with government, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So it's a different government, but the practices are the same thing. So it's essentially the same kind of people because they're carrying out the same kind of practices, and everything bends in from the mental to the physical. So there's a reason why you like and dislike certain things. So for them to like and be drawn to certain practices, it shows where they're at spiritually, you know? So we need to look at everything as is when coming into this topic that I'm about to talk about with normalization. With colonization, that's a perfect example of normalization. And I just want to say as well, like, this is something different, this video that I wanted to do. I wanted to say this at the start of the video, but I completely forgot because I'm not actually planning. I'm kind of winging it. Normally, I'm used to like having a small, short plan before I jump into a video. But at the moment, I'm just winging it. And like I had an idea, obviously, because I've got a title. So I use that as like kind of like a little thing to base it off of, but generally I didn't have a certain guide or flow of how I wanted this video to go. I just thought, let me just make a video, let me just like post the title and then just start talking and we'll see how things go, because it's Mercury in Sag, so trying to get more with that energy, as well as the Sun in Sag, of just being in the experience rather than thinking or making sense out of the experience or planning about the experience before I go in the experience. Just jumping into that fire and water energy of more action and more doing. All right. So when it comes to this video, this is why I may seem different. Actually, I honestly haven't noticed much of a difference during this video in the way that I'm talking compared to the other videos where I have planned things. So anyways, what is that in my freaking hair? It's probably my scalp. Oh no, it's a hairband. So yeah, I don't really think there's much of a difference from my other videos anyway, so we'll just keep this video going. But yeah, colonization is a perfect example of something that's become normalized. We live in a society which is the product of colonization, and if anything, colonization is still happening. We see this on a day-to-day basis where like it's clear that the indigenous populations of countries are disproportionately treated in a negative way, but yet every other population that comes from overseas seems to get quite a lot of benefits. You see it in Australia, you see it in New Zealand. Now, this is not to shun or say anything against other people that come from other countries, but we need to look at everything as is and realize that at the end of the day, the government they were the reason why we even had planes in the first place. Not only that, but like they're the reason why people are coming from overseas as well, partly because they're the ones allowing them. It's not to say and point the blame and say, oh, those people from overseas are blah blah blah. No, at the end of the day, like there's nothing wrong with like coming from overseas, but it's like them encouraging it, the government encouraging it, and like to the certain point where like it's glamorized and it's shown on the TV, like for you to have a better life in certain countries. And that's not to say that that's not for a reason too, because we have to look at everything as is too. So, you know, there's obviously a reason why those certain countries are like that too, but that's also because like they've been kind of put into this mind state of going out to search for things, and then it leads them to physically do that thing. They go out and search for things. So it's like that going all the way back to that searching for the light energy with the like Sons of the Light or the Illuminati or whatever people want to call it, whatever name you want to call it, but it's going back to that searching for the light energy. And that's why a lot of people want to go overseas, because instead of being the creators of their own light, of their own imagination, of their own thoughts and feelings, of their own reality, they choose to be in search for the light. So they'll always be in search for some kind of fulfillment outside of them. And that leads to them also searching for that fulfillment from overseas or whatever the case may be. So it's all that kind of same kind of mentality that bends in and creates those experiences of people wanting to come overseas. And people that are indigenous to a country, usually they obviously won't be in that mentality because they have their own mentality. They probably wouldn't want to search for the light. Maybe they would, depends on the different people and the different land masses. But generally, if they were in search for the light, that would kind of be something in alliance with uh, the Sons of the Light energy, or shadow government, or whatever you want to call it. It would be in alignment. So if they were in search for the light, they would probably not want to wipe that people out. They'd probably just assimilate, or whatever the case may be. I can't say for exact, because I'm not exactly them. But generally, like, they'd have more of a better time at assimilating together, because they would have a similar mindset and way of thinking, of searching and going out in search for external things, and search for external lights, imaginations, thoughts, and feelings to fulfill them, instead of being the creator and being able to create their own happiness, being able to create their own state of being, and having that spiritual strength. Because that's what you should do at the end of the day. You should always be creating your own state of being. Otherwise, if you're going and looking for external states of being outside of you, you're doing everything backwards. Like, I'm telling you right now, you're going to be wasting your time, and you're going to be searching for a long, long time. You need to create these things, because searching only breeds more searching. Lostness only breeds more lostness at the end of the day. So the more you try to search, the more you try to seek, the more you try to gain, like earn, whatever the heck you want to do. Like, gain is the beginning of a gain. So you know what I mean? Once you gain something, you're going to have to gain it again. You're going to have to gain it again. So it's the same kind of concept when you're like out searching for things. That's how they created and built this world. So you look for something to gain, and then you have to get that gain constantly. So it leads you constantly into that state of being, of needing to gain, as opposed to if you have, because you already know how to create, you don't need to gain, you already have. So even if you were to come to a situation of not having, you still can have it at the end of the day. You still can have something. So no matter what people try to take from you, you always have something. Even if it's not having, you still have that ability to not have. Like, so at the end of the day, having only breeds more having, even if it leads to a situation of not having. But a lot of people might not be able to keep up with me on that, so I won't go too deep into that. But those who know, those who know. So at the end of the day, when it comes to, as well, earning, like an urn is in death. Is it like, what is it? An urn is like for the dead. Sorry, my bad, I misworded that. Yeah, I heard that in a Saint Uno song. Like, I can't believe I didn't even think of that. I'm pretty sure I've heard it as well in another time before that, but I seem to forget that part. But I don't really use the word earn as well, so that's probably as well why, like, I don't really think about that, because earn as a word doesn't come to my mind state. But he said in his song Saint Uno, it was in his album Brace Face, he said an urn is for the dead, or something like that. I can't remember the exact line, but you get the idea. So essentially they put you in these states of wanting to earn, but at the end of the day, that leads you in a dead state of being, in a death state of mind. So no matter how much you're earning, you're always going to feel dead inside, and so on and so forth. And then no matter how much you're gaining, you're always going to have to get it back again. So like, it's like leaving you in that rat race. And so it's a spiritual version of like a hamster wheel, where you're like in this hamster wheel, and it's like esoteric, so you can't see it. It's like a representation of certain ideas and concepts that they put you in. And you might just think that it's just an idea or a concept, or it's just the way things should be. But again, these are forms of normalization that people are so far disconnected from as a society. You think that things are normal when actually they're not. All the way down to searching for the light. Like, that is not a normal state of being that someone should be in. Because if you had to search for the light, then at the end of the day, you wouldn't really, have those things produced outside of you already. So the fact that those things are produced outside of you in physical form, in representations of characteristics, it shows that you can produce that thing yourself. So whether it's mentally or physically, it does not matter. Because at the end of the day, if you realize that you're the creator, you create thoughts and feelings, you create mind states. Otherwise, you would just be able to stay in one state of mind and you wouldn't be able to jump into any other state of mind. So the very fact that you're able to do different states of mind shows you that these things are being created, all the way down to people saying, oh, now we've got this mental illness, now we've got that mental illness. You don't think that the reason why, like, a lot of people might think, oh, well, those things weren't really known. Of course they weren't known. It's because we weren't at that awareness, and some of them we probably didn't even create at that point. So we're actually creating these things as a collective. So when they start to say, oh, there's a new blah, blah, blah species, there's a new this species, there's a new mental illness, there's a new word or concept that we're describing, we're creating these concepts by developing certain mind states and ideas and feelings. And then those start to become reality. So we can put the name to it and say, oh, we discovered this or we discovered that. So we're always giving birth to new things in reality. And as an individual, you will just do that on a more smaller scale. So you're not necessarily giving birth to physical things as an individual. That's more of a collective thing. But as a collective, we all create the physical reality in general. So just need to know that, and you'll be able to be a lot more sweet. But if you don't know that, then you need to start to challenge yourself, to challenge your own ideas. Well, you don't need to. At the end of the day, it's your life. But if you're here watching this video, I'm willing to bet you're probably open to suggestions. So when it comes to you challenging yourself, challenge yourself every day to think and feel something that's not something that you're already thinking or feeling. So you can create your own thought or feeling. What do you want to think or feel like? And just think about what that feels like. What it feels like to be happy, and also the things that would make you happy. So just by doing that, you already know how to get there. That's your vehicle. That's your mechanism for you to be able to travel there in the spirit realm. And then the more you do that, the more you'll realize that you literally do create your reality. And there's no other way to look at it. And if you're looking at it any other way, then you're looking at it from a backwards perspective. And that's why you keep experiencing circumstances of you feeling like everything's happening to you, and you need to go out and search for something to kind of help you, all the way down to physical things, all the way down to that hair gel that you feel like you need, all the way down to you feeling like you need to go out and get a hairdresser. And I'm not saying any of these things are bad. None of these things are bad. And everything within moderation, of course. So always remember to have a balance. But when you look at it from the right perspective, it'll be in more of that balanced state, because you're looking at it from its natural state of being, as opposed to looking at it from, it's like if you were looking at something from upside down and trying to figure it out the right way up, as opposed to just looking at it the right way up. You're going to get a lot more easier of a time figuring out what it is if you're looking at it from the right way up, But if you're constantly looking at it from upside down, you're going to be there for a bit trying to figure out it. And then even then, you still might get stuff wrong. You know what I mean? So just put yourself the right way up, realize that you're the creator of your reality, and just move on with the shit, bish. Otherwise, stay there. What else do you have? But at the end of the day, your spirit's going to create a circumstance for you to change and transform, whether you like it or not. So it doesn't matter. And I know this from personal experience. It doesn't matter what you do, what you try to stay fixated in, what light you try to uphold or go out and constantly search for, your spirit's going to create a circumstance for you to just transform that, whether you like it or not. So you just start being aware of that and creating that, instead of letting your spirit take the wheel, which really is just you. But because you're unconscious, you're just operating from your body or some shit, or your mind. really most people are just operating from their body, your physical body, and you shouldn't be operating from your body, because that's when you start to fall to your victim to your own desires, and so on and so forth. That's a whole rodeo that you're going to have to go through many experiences just to learn how to separate from that. But you know, spirits like me can be able to talk about this and like kind of help to speed up the process for other people who are interested in watching and, you know, learning about these kind of things too. So yeah, that's the way it goes. But you know, that's another thing that's normalized, is like doing things upside down, back to front, like doing things the hard way. Like, because like people think that life is hard, but if you did it from more of the perspective that I was talking about it, as you creating your thoughts and feelings, it actually makes things a lot smoother and a lot easier, and it leads to a lot more smoother circumstances and easier physical circumstances. And you'll find that you'll literally physically be doing things that are a lot easier. But like, it's so normalized for things to be hard that like people don't realize like it all starts from the mental. So then they lead to them believing that life is hard, when in actuality, like, it'll be a lot smoother if you just change your mentality. Like, it's like all the hard work is the mind part. The body is like just like kind of like honestly like a doll, like for your mind. Look at it like that. It's not literally like that, because like that's still like a physical representation, so it's kind of, but look at it similar to that aspect that I was talking about. It like your mind is like, um let's say like your mind would be like the controller, right? Imagine your mind, it's like if you play video games, because I used to play a lot of video games. It's like your mind is like the controller, right? And you're the person controlling the controller. That would be like your spirit, but like you're not a person, that's just your spirit, that's just your space, there's no thing. And then your mind, that would be like the controller. But like instead of like the controller just being one type of controller, like it's like the better, it's like a controller that like the better you get at the game, the better you can utilize your thoughts and feelings, the better you can like make the coolest controller, the most smoothest controller that has the perfect controls that can perfectly translate everything that you do as a spirit. um and then the game would be like your physical body. So it's kind of like that, sort of. But like, don't equate it at the end of the day. This is just a representation to kind of give you an idea of how you should similarly be looking at it. Because at the end of the day, it's not that um the it's not that the game itself is hard. It's that you tried to play it from the aspect of the NPC. So you thought that like being the NPC, like everything was going to be peachy keen. But in actuality, the NPC is limited awareness, limited consciousness, limited thoughts. Like all of it is limited. You know what I mean? So that's like literally like your physical body. It's part of it's limited. That's why it's like physical and dense. And you're also limited to the physical body. You know, you can only use your physical senses and whatever the case may be. But if you were looking at it from the spirit and the controller, now you're in a space of being more limitless, because you're realizing that you can have whatever controller you want. You can have whatever mind mentality you want. Okay, you can have whatever experience and situation and physical circumstance that you want. But if you keep wanting without realizing it, you're wanting a negative experience, because actually your spirit is trying to tell you something. Your spirit's trying to tell you that you are the creator, or and utilizing different vehicles and different mentalities. But because you're in the space of like the body, the video game, the NPC, you just think things are happening to you. But it's like you trying to wake you up, like on a different side of yourself. But like, don't look at it as separate, because you are that thing. But just because you don't have those awarenesses of being aware of those certain things, because you've kind of got lost under layers of lights, layers of mentalities, layers of physicality. So now you're thinking that things are happening to you, but not realizing that all along, like, you were the orchestrator, you were the director, you were like the producer of that specific show, which is your life. It's really, really deep shit. But if you can't get it, you can't get it at this point in time. But if you can sort of get what I'm saying, that's like that one step closer that you can get to this kind of space where you'll be able to fully see what I'm saying at a certain point. But I'm just trying to get people a better perspective so that they can see things from more what they are, because it's actually like a backwards ass world out here. So like everything's kind of backwards, and everyone is in a backwards mentality trying to search for the light. And that always searching breeds more searching. Lostness breeds more lostness. So like, it doesn't matter how hard you try, how much you try to search, you're still going to end up having to search just equally that amount that you put out of searching energy, you know? So once you realize that, you're like, oh my gosh, bro, I played myself the whole time, literally, in a literal sense, going back to that video game analogy. You played yourself as an NPC, but really you should have been playing the game, you know, through the controller that you had all along, that you could have made into whatever you wanted, however controller that you wanted to make it into. But you decided to get lost as a spirit, and you forgot that you decided that, you know, because you got too fixated into one mentality, too fixated into one desire. And then you thought that that desire was you, aka you thought that physical body was you. And now you're looking at your life and you're like, why is everything happening? What is the reason? What is the meaning behind life? When all along you knew it, love, otherwise you wouldn't be freaking alive. You're here to create. You're here to give birth. You're here to create something new that's more closer to no thing, more closer to the spirit, a more representation of something that's limitless in the form of something that's limited. So, shout out to Mystellar Pilot Man. I always do that. Maybe I should stop doing that. I think it's going overboard. So yeah, when it comes to these kind of things that we have been normalized in a society to think, it's definitely concepts that a lot of people do not realize goes way deeper than we think. People just think about, like, you know, drugs, sex, crime being normalized. Those are like very small on the spiritual scale of issues that we need to resolve. Because those are not the root cause of the problem. The root cause of the problem goes a lot deeper than just us experiencing crime and us experiencing drugs. Really, at the end of the day, drugs, like pills and all that type of shit, the stuff that really be killing people out here, those are actually made by the shadow government, by the pharmacies. So like, we know where that comes from. We know where that root of the problem is. But regardless, other stuff like crime and stuff, those are not always the root cause of the issue. In fact, majority of the time, in fact, all of the time, they're not the root cause of the issue. The crime is like an after effect. How do I say? The laziness is an after effect. The lack of energy is an after effect of something that started in the mind. As a collective society, everyone just agreed to a certain term and group of terms and conditions without realizing what that encompassed, which was you agreed to be in search for something external, to follow the light, to be a mini version of a son of the light, of a shadow government individual. But they play it out like, because that's actually them as a representation. They're just playing out their own characters and their own individuality, how they saw fit, which may be negative in totality in some aspects. But, you know, we just need to look at everything for what it is, from an equilibrium. And if you are playing that out on a micro scale, which is searching for the light, going in search for the light, and whether that's on a mental level or a physical level, which in a physical level that would represent you going out and needing external things to constantly soothe you, needing, constantly being in need type of energy. Basically, that's what that would play out as. And mentally, it's like constantly being in need for a thought or a feeling. So whichever way you look at it, it's always a form of searching for the light. So, you know, who are you following? What spirits are you following? What spirits are you with? You know, what spirits have you normalized around yourself? And the more you start to pay attention to the thoughts and feelings that you're in as a collective, and look at the larger aspect of it, because like I was saying in this video, you know, I kind of brought you to the water to show you how you can kind of look at this as a mentality, and so you can sort of see how certain thoughts and feelings can maybe appear different in the physical, but if you look at them from a broader perspective, then you'll see that they're actually the same concept, just representing itself in different forms. And it's became normalized, so people be blind to the fact that it's the same concept. And then boom, you come to this certain circumstance, then you'll be able to actually kind of make sense out of different concepts, different ideas that are holding you back, different limitations, and so on and so forth. So I'll just leave it at that, I reckon, guys, because that was pretty perfect at what I just did. I really perfectly explained that whole normalization concept. I'm really proud of myself. Put myself a pat on the back. Yo.